Deku? I think he's some pro. By clouds. My head in the clouds, not coming down. Chapter 19. Battle Training. Katsuki scowled as he got dressed in his brand new hero costume. Most of the other boys were gawking at Deku's outfit, especially the variety of weapons strapped all over his body, including 2 pistols. How did he even get those? More importantly, how did a quirkless loser like him even get into UA? Yeah, he'd admit that strategy he'd used to beat the teacher was somewhat impressive, but the nerd didn't even do any of the work. It was the people with quirks who did all the fighting, and that's how it would always be. So where did the stupid teachers get off on letting a useless loser like Deku into the top hero school in the country? And getting in on recommendations? What kind of joke was that? This was supposed to be his epic origin story, and Deku was ruining it on purpose. Whatever. Hopefully he'd have an excuse to beat the nerd up during battle training. If not, well, they'd always be after school. "You all look like heroes!" All Might declared proudly, as they all stepped out of the tunnel. Katsuki thought it was odd that Deku wasn't fanboying like everyone else in the class. In fact, he almost seemed nervous, like he was trying to avoid looking All Might in the eye or something. Not that Katsuki cared, but it seemed like it was way out of character. On the other hand, All Might's eyes kept lingering on Deku, like he knew he recognized him from somewhere, but couldn't quite place him or something. It was really pissing Katsuki off. All Might explained that they'd be fighting indoor battles in teams of 2, and Katsuki tuned out. Indoor battles, teams of 2, don't forget the bomb, got it. Now stop yammering, he wanted to fight already. He rolled his eyes when he was paired with the 4-eyed freak. What was that extra's quirk again? It couldn't have been anything too cool if he hung out with Deku at lunch. All Might pulled out the first 2 teams to fight with a flourish, and Katsuki smirked. Looks like he'd get to pound Deku into the ground sooner than later. His smile widened as he saw Deku gulp and glance over at him with fear in his eyes, but fell, and the nerd suddenly clenched his fists and turned to him with determination. Katsuki gave Deku his best glare before stalking off into the building with 4 eyes. This time, he'd make sure that loser learned his lesson. The fake weapon was in a room on the 3rd floor, and didn't take long to find. Ida strode up to it and knocked on the side. The bomb made a hollow clanging sound. "So, this is the weapon we're supposed to protect." Katsuki scoffed and clenched his fists. He could care less about this stupid weapon. "Hey, 4 eyes." He kept looking at the door. "Do you really think Deku deserves to be in the hero course?" "You saw how well he strategized," Ida said. "And he did get in on recommendations, a feat which escaped even me, so I believe he has earned his spot in the hero course. Why do you seem so angry when it comes to him?" Katsuki saw red. That nerd was tricking him all these months, pretending to give up on being a hero, pretending that he'd finally learned how useless he really was, when all along he was training with pro heroes. Why didn't those heroes take an interest in Katsuki? He would obviously be a better hero than Deku, everyone said so. So why did the loser get in on recommendations and get a cooler origin story than he did? Deku didn't even have a quirk. If there was anything that Katsuki was sure about in this exercise, it was that he was gonna kill that damn nerd. "Do you really think they want us to memorize the floor plan?" Uraka said. Izuku shrugged. "I don't know. I already did. It's helpful to have a mental map so you don't get lost." Uraka stared at him with wide eyes before changing the subject. "You know, All Might's just as cool in person as he is on television. I'm glad he's not threatening to expel us like Aizawa did." Izuku sat silently for a moment, the paper in his hands becoming hopelessly wrinkled from how tightly he was gripping it. Between realizing he'd have to deal with the hero that tried to crush his dreams for the whole semester, and being faced with Kachan, who he knew was trying to kill him, his nerves were shot. Suddenly, Izuku remembered that it was probably appropriate to say something when a girl asked you a question. Yeah, sure. Uraraka looked at him with concern. Are you okay, Deku? You look kinda tense. Izuku sighed. It's just we're going up against Kachan. Plus, Ida's pretty strong too. We should be on our guard. Who knows what they'll pull. Oh, right. Bakugo's the one who's always making fun of you. Izuku nodded. He can be a pain, but his strength, his confidence, his ambition, not to mention his quirk, they're all so much greater than mine. He's pretty mad that you're at UA, isn't he? Uraraka asked. Izuku gave a breathy laugh. Yep. That's why he's gonna come after me as soon as All Might says go. It doesn't matter that the safest strategy would be him to guard the bomb and send Ida out to find us. For him, this is personal, and nothing he says is gonna convince him otherwise. He stood. But that's why I have to do better. I refuse to lose today. Uraraka got a strange glint in her eye. So it's a fated battle between rivals, huh? Not that I'm trying to get you wrapped up in my fight or anything. Izuku waved his arms in denial. Are you kidding? Uraraka laughed and hit a fist against her palm. Let's win this! All Might's voice came over the speaker, making them jump. Your time starts now! Immediately, Izuku snapped into analyst mode. Okay, so they're probably expecting us to come in through the front door. Can you use your quirk on yourself? Uraraka grimaced. Only as a last resort. It makes me really sick. Izuku nodded, then grabbed his grappling hook from its holster and shot it so it lodged into the wall right above the 4th-story window, then handed it to Uraraka. Okay, so this button will retract it, and this one will dislodge the hook from wherever it is. If you need to shoot it again, just aim and press this button right here. Got it? Uraraka looked overwhelmed, but nodded. Is it strong enough to handle both of us? Izuku looked up at the building. It doesn't need to be. I'll be going in through the front door and leading Kachan on a wild goose chase. You'll find Ida and the bomb. Get it if you can, but if not, just tell me where it is and I'll try and beat Kachan and come and help you. Are you sure you can handle him on your own? Uraraka asked worriedly. Izuku smiled. Kachan may have bombs. He patted the holster on his thigh. But I have guns. Uraraka smiled and nodded before pressing the button to retract the hook and swinging through the open window, pulling the hook through behind her. Izuku waited a moment before walking in through the front door. He'd taken a lot of notes on indoor battles over the years, but even more so since he'd started working with underground heroes. He'd even done an indoor battle during the drug cartel raid, so the setting didn't scare him. His opponent, however, did. Suddenly, Kachan rounded the corner, aiming an explosion right at Izuku's face. He rolled out of the way just in time, thankful for the fast reflexes he'd gotten from his specialized training. Thick smoke and dust filled the hallway, and through his comm, he heard Uraraka quietly ask if he was okay. Kachan emerged from the smoke with a sneer on his face. What's the matter, Deku? If you're afraid to stand up and fight me, maybe a quirkless coward like you shouldn't be at UA. Izuku stood up tall and looked him in the eye. I knew you'd come at me first to try and take me by surprise. Kachan grinned. I don't want to hurt you so bad they have to stop the fight. He yelled as he prepared to throw a quirk-loaded punch. But I want to come close! Izuku grabbed Kachan's arm and flipped him over his shoulder. You always use a big right hook to start a fight, Kachan, he panted. I know that because I've watched you for years. Maybe you should have paid more attention to that notebook you burned and threw away. Those analyses are what caught the attention of the heroes that recommended me. He grit his teeth as Kachan began to get up. You can call me Deku, but I'm not the same defenseless, helpless kid anymore. From now on, Deku is the name of a hero. Kacchan lowered himself into a battle stance. Deku, he growled. You're shaking in your boots just looking at me, but you want to fight me anyway? His hands started popping with explosions. That's why I hate you! Kacchan launched himself at Izuku, who tried to wrap the capture tape around his ankle. Next, Izuku knew that Kacchan would get impatient and try to end the fight with a big punch, which he dodged. Kacchan was starting to mix up his moves, so did that mean he was worried? If he couldn't easily predict his moves, it wouldn't be smart to fight him in close range. Izuku turned and ran down the hall before the smoke cleared, trying to come up with a plan. He heard Bakugo scream in rage. You've been laughing behind my back, Deku. Getting all these heroes just to make me look bad. You're just a quirkless nobody, Deku. You'll never beat me. Izuku knew that if he went and helped Uraraka now, Kacchan would just follow him. So he had to take him down here. He'd taken down actual villains, though. Something Kacchan had never done. So he knew he could do it, just as long as he didn't get too close to Kacchan's hands. Stop hiding, Deku! Izuku thought back to all the times he tried to reassure Kacchan that he wasn't trying to compete with him or be better than him, only to get bruises or burns for his troubles. His eyes lit up with determination. Maybe it was time to change his attitude. Deku? Uraraka's voice came over the radio. Ida knows I'm here. Sorry. He's monologuing right now, though. Izuku nodded and gripped the capture tape. They were probably running low on time. It was time to stop messing around and beat Kacchan. He heard footsteps behind him and turned around to see Kacchan smiling at him as he slowly walked closer. Quick reader's note, sorry about the crickets, they're unwanted on my side as well. Since you're my stalker, you probably already know how my quirk works by exploding my sweat. So just imagine what I could do if I had a lot of it. Izuku's eyes widened as Kacchan slowly pulled the pin on his gauntlets. That's right. These babies aren't just for show. Bakugo! All Might's voice came over the radio. Don't do it, you'll kill him. He'll be fine as long as he dodges. Bakugo grinned widely and finished pulling the pin, letting loose a massive explosion. Come in! Come in, Midoriya! All Might was practically screaming through the radio as Izuku hissed in pain. He'd managed to roll behind a pillar just in time to dodge the explosion, but it had done nothing to shield him from the heat. He knew he probably had at least first-degree burns all over his body from being too close to that blast. Who approved that thing? He'd had to train for months to be able to carry a gun, and Bakugo just comes in with enough firepower to blow through the wall? Kacchan had just tried to kill him. Something finally clicked in Izuku's brain, and he remembered what Nighteye had said. He was right. Katsuki hadn't been his friend in a long time. Izuku smiled as an idea occurred to him, and he silently held himself closer to the pillar as he drew one of his guns from its holster. These gauntlets are awesome! Katsuki cackled. Even if you give me all you've got, you'll never beat me. Izuku waited for the smoke to clear, so he could aim properly. Katsuki would be expecting him to be curled on the ground in a fetal position. It would throw him for a loop when he was nowhere to be seen. Huh? Katsuki looked around, then ran over to the hole in the wall, and looked down to see if Izuku had been thrown from the building in the explosion. Deku, where'd you go? 2 gunshots rang out clearly as Izuku fired, hitting Katsuki with a rubber bullet to each bicep, right where Tsukatsu had taught him would cause him enough pain to temporarily paralyze the arm. Katsuki's eyes widened as Izuku ran at him, and swiped his legs out from under him, landing him flat on his back. Quickly, Izuku took the capture tape and wrapped it around each of Katsuki's wrists before standing. Bakugo has been captured by the hero team! You've always been amazing, Katsuki. Izuku looked down at Katsuki as his eyes widened at the lack of a nickname. "That's why I had to beat you." "I'm coming, Uraka. Where are you?" "5th floor. Hurry. Ida cleared the room of everything except the weapon, so I don't have any ammo for my quirk." Izuku turned and ran, making his way up the stairs as quickly as he could. He could hear Ida laughing evilly and monologuing. He opened his pocket and grabbed a small box of rubber bullets that he kept on him in case he had to reload. He tossed a smoke bomb inside the room to cover him as he ran towards Uraraka and shoved the box into her hands, then pulled out his gun and ducked behind another pillar. Uraraka immediately started pelting Ida with the weightless bullets, turning the room into a giant pinball machine and forcing Ida to spend all of his energy dodging. "Where are you, hero?" Ida yelled. "You may have taken down my partner, but there is no way I will go down so easily. Hiding is an act of cowardice." "Or an act of intelligence," Izuku said cheekily, as he stepped out from behind the pillar and shot Ida in the leg. Oh, Brave would be so proud. Uraraka released her quirk, and all the ricocheting bullets fell onto the floor as their gravity returned. She ran over and touched the bomb as Izuku tied Ida up with capture tape. "The hero team wins!" "Deku!" Uraraka cried, as she flung herself at Izuku and wrapped her arms around him. "We did it!" Izuku hissed in pain as she squeezed his burns. He'd hardly felt the pain during the fight, but now that the adrenaline was going down, he realized just how much having first-degree burns over his whole body hurt. "Deku?" Uraraka jumped back. "You okay?" Izuku gave her a shaky smile, then promptly passed out.